The Wolf on the Road. Chapter 2. Into Black Hollow. James's heart pounded as he threw the gear shift into drive and gunned the truck forward, speeding away from the monstrous creature in the rearview mirror. The fog was so thick now, it felt like he was driving through a nightmare, one where the road seemed to close in around him, and the weight of the night pressed down like a heavy cloak. He kept glancing back, expecting to see the creature lunging out of the mist, but the road behind him was eerily empty. It felt wrong, too quiet. The low growl still echoed in his mind, and despite the absence of anything visible, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was still following him. Up ahead, the lights of Black Hollow flickered dimly through the fog, barely illuminating the outline of a small town. James's grip tightened on the wheel as he entered the town limits, the sign old and rusted, barely hanging on to its posts. There was no welcome, no sense of comfort, just an overwhelming sense of abandonment. Black Hollow wasn't just forgotten, it felt haunted by something ancient, something that had been waiting for him. As James drove down the empty streets, his truck's headlights illuminated buildings that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. Old gas stations, boarded-up diners, and crumbling motels lined the road, all decaying under the weight of time. It was as if the town had been frozen in place, abandoned by everyone, yet still alive in its own eerie way. His radio crackled to life again, breaking the oppressive silence. This time, it wasn't just static. There was a faint voice, distorted, broken, like someone was trying to speak through a long-forgotten frequency. James. His name. He stiffened, glancing at the radio, unsure if he had really heard it or if his mind was playing tricks on him. He reached out to turn it off, but the voice came again, clearer this time, though no less haunting. "James, come back!" A cold shiver crawled up his spine. He slammed his fist on the dashboard, cutting the power to the radio completely, but the static continued, echoing in the cabin like a whisper from the void. Without thinking, he pulled the truck to a stop in front of an old gas station. The sign overhead flickered weakly, casting an unnatural, sickly glow over the cracked pavement. His breath fogged up the windshield as he sat there, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. The fog outside seemed to swirl, as if alive, and James felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. He needed answers. He needed to understand what was happening. He had to know why that creature had been on the road, why his name had come through the static. But as he reached for the door handle, a shadow moved out of the corner of his eye. His head snapped toward it, but there was nothing, just the same dark, empty street, cloaked in mist. His pulse quickened, and a knot of dread tightened in his gut. He felt trapped, as if Black Hollow was swallowing him whole, pulling him deeper into a place he had no business being. James stepped out of the truck, the cold air biting into his skin, his boots crunching on the cracked pavement. Every step felt heavier than the last, his instincts screaming at him to get back inside the truck and leave this cursed place. But he couldn't shake the compulsion to move forward. The gas station loomed ahead, dark and abandoned, its windows cracked and smeared with grime. Yet, as he approached, he noticed something, faint footprints in the dirt leading to the door. Someone had been here recently. He swallowed hard and reached for the door, the creak of its hinges breaking the suffocating silence as he pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the shelves were empty, save for a few forgotten relics of the past. A flickering fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. And then he saw it, on the counter, a single, yellowed piece of paper, folded neatly as if waiting for him. His name was scrawled on the front in hurried, jagged handwriting. James hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest. Slowly, he unfolded the note, his fingers trembling as he read the words inside. "It knows you. It's always known you. Don't stay. Don't let it in." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the gas station, shattering the silence and sending a jolt of fear through James. He turned toward the noise, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist, as if something was moving through them. Without thinking, James turned and ran. He bolted for the door, flinging it open and sprinting back to his truck. The fog outside had thickened even more, swirling with an unnatural urgency, as if trying to keep him there, trying to pull him back into the heart of Black Hollow. He slammed the truck's door shut, hands shaking as he fumbled for the keys. His heart raced, his mind clouded with fear and confusion. The engine roared to life, and with a heavy push on the gas, James sped away from the gas station, tires screeching against the pavement. But as he looked into the rearview mirror, the fog parted once more, and standing at the edge of the road, watching him leave, was the creature, its glowing eyes locked onto him, its mouth twisted into a snarl. James gripped the wheel tighter, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he drove faster, desperate to escape the town that seemed to know too much about him. But deep down, he knew he hadn't outrun it. The road ahead was long, dark, and filled with shadows that he couldn't shake. Black Hollow had opened a door, and now, it would never truly let him go.